For those of you who don't know, the very worst move you can make on your first turn is G4. This is the Grob. It is just as bad as if your opponent stole both of your rook pawns before the game even started. Its counterpart for black, the Borg, can be twice as bad. And this is what makes it so beautiful. Look at this man. He plays the Petrov. This guy plays the London system.
You suck.
This dude plays the Sicilian. And this is your average Grob player. Carefree. Joyous. So tell me, are you sick of the London system? The Italian? The Norwegian rat? Well, look no further, for I only play the Grob, and I will not stop playing the Grob until I reach 2000 ELO on chess.com Blitz to prove once and for all that the Grob is actually the best opening in chess. Starting off at 1600, our first game is going to be a Borg, which is actually Grob spelled backwards. We are going to exchange pleasantries with our opponent and spread the word of the Borg, and then naturally develop our pieces. Now, one of the most important things in the Groborg is never castling early, which is true for both players. If white castles, then I can leverage my open kingside for an aggressive attack, with ideas of bringing my king rook to g8 and pushing my extended g-pawn. If I castle kingside, it just won't be defended, and if I castle queenside, they can usually send a barrage of pawns at my king. But in this situation, I've already opened my queenside up, so it doesn't really matter, but further through the game, I do have the idea of castling queenside and then moving my king to b8. Currently, my main ideas are to develop my queen to give her more value and to give my king the space to castle. This will also be good for when I need to maneuver my rooks to both attack white's kingside. As you can see, I am slowly moving all my pieces so that they can attack the kingside, as it is weak whether or not their king has castled. Since he didn't respond last time, I hit him with the "It's Borgin time," which he wittily responds by immediately blundering. Now that he's castled, I can move my rook to g8 and start attacking his king, and start looking to take his pawn on h3, as his pawn on h2 is pinned by my rook, and I can also trade off his knight on f4 with my dark square bishop. White plays knight to h5 to try and make me trade off my knight while also bringing down his queen to defend his h3 pawn, but I don't really care, so I take his h3 pawn myself. Now it's time for a puzzle. Come on, you've got this. Nearly there. 3, 2, 1. Yay! Good work. Taking the pawn on g2 wins the queen, as if he chooses to not trade queen for rook and bishop with qe3, I get into his kingside with all of my pieces and will likely put him in a very difficult position where he will probably need to sacrifice pieces to escape. Luckily, he decides to move his queen to f2, allowing me to win his queen without losing any pieces, as his only move that stops forced checkmate is queen to g3. We start off with the big win with 0 mistakes, 0 blunders, and 0 missed wins. Shivers. That game netted us 18 ELO, putting us at a hearty 1647 for our first win of the 5 games. For game 2, we are playing yet another Borg, but let's take a break and let me tell you a little something about the man who created this opening. This is the man himself, International Master Henry Grob. Mr. Grob is often cited as the GOAT of chess, as he spent his entire life promoting the Grob opening. He was also an all-round player, being married 9 times. Magnus Carlsen got married last night, and it's only his first time. Congratulations, but you've got a long way to go in the chess world, Magnus. Wait a minute, why did I do that? After some careful consideration on how to make up for my mistake, I decided to blunder my queen. If he checks me with his knight on d6, I am forced to capture with my pawn, and then he can take my queen for free. Luckily, my brain-eating amoeba crawls from my brain to his, and he doesn't see it. However, the damage has been done, as after he castles, I develop my knight and trap my bishop. Not to mention, I've completely run down my clock with 20 seconds to make something happen. Unfortunately, I did not make anything happen. We only lost 13 elo from this game, so although we have fallen down to 1634, we are still up 5 points. What we really need is a game as white, so we can showcase the true power of the Grob. With great power comes great responsibility. Those were the famous last words of Henry Grob. Like Oppenheimer, what he created, he knew was simply too powerful. Quite simply, we made a quick recovery of our 13 elo, putting us back at 1647. Although we got our Grob game, Chess.com decides to give us another Borg to redeem ourselves. But wait. This is my first chess video, so if you've enjoyed this video so far, then consider liking. If you didn't like it, consider disliking. And since this is my first video, I genuinely would love to hear feedback and criticism in the comments, so let me know. Anyhow, I decided to adopt a new strategy for this game, push my g-pawn as far as possible. And by moving my pawn to g4, he has to retreat his knight, meaning I have gained 2 tempo for completely free. I then back up my pawn while he fights for the center, and I develop my kingside pieces. He sacks a pawn and another tempo at once. Clearly, he is frightened of my g-pawn, so I push it again, tempting him to trade, which would force his rook to h2, wasting another tempo and removing his ability to castle kingside. Although he resists, he doesn't take the opportunity to push his f-pawn forward, so I move my g-pawn forward once again, checking his king and forcing a trade where he must move his king to f2. After some extra developing and trading, I am still holding my solid positional lead, but I have very little time left. I panic move my knight to d8 with the idea to defend my e-pawn, but if I forced him into trading queens, with queen check on d4, queen takes d4, bishop takes d4, king h1, bishop takes on b2, d takes on c6, b takes on c6, knight to d2, bishop takes on a1, rook takes on a1, rook takes on h5. Then it is 2 rooks with pawn advantage against rook and knight. This sounds very long-winded and hard to spot, but realistically, I should have been looking to trade queens in this spot anyways, and the progression is a pretty straightforward one with very little deviations. It was just difficult to find with such little time. Luckily, he doesn't take any initiative and allows me to trade my queen anyhow, leading me to take the same trade and ending up with 2 rooks and knight against rook, bishop, and knight. The problem is the time.